Welcome to Book Nibbles, Big Ideas, Small Bites. Imagine waking up every day carrying invisible injuries. You move through life as though an unseen hand is constantly pressing on your chest, your mind on high alert, your body twitching at the faintest sound. This is the world that Bessel van der Kolk, a pioneering psychiatrist, introduces us to in The Body Keeps the Score. From the very first pages, the book immerses you in the reality of trauma, not just as emotional suffering, but as a physiological imprint on the brain and body, shaping how people think, feel, and even how they breathe. Trauma is not just in the mind, it lives in muscles, organs, and neural pathways, and understanding this is crucial to healing. Van der Kolk starts by explaining that trauma can be both obvious and invisible. There are the extreme cases, war veterans, survivors of abuse, catastrophic accidents, but also the subtler ones, children growing up in chaotic households, people living with prolonged stress, or even those exposed to repeated microaggressions. Trauma hijacks the nervous system, often creating a disconnect between mind and body. A person might intellectually know that a situation is safe, but their body reacts as though danger is present. This disconnect explains why survivors of trauma often feel out of control in their reactions, experience sudden bursts of anger, panic, or dissociation, or struggle with chronic pain, insomnia, or gastrointestinal issues. Van der Kolk stresses that healing trauma requires reconnecting the body and mind, not merely talking about it. One of the book's central ideas is that traditional talk therapy, while valuable, is often insufficient for deeply embedded trauma. Van der Kolk provides numerous examples. He recalls a patient named Nicole who suffered from severe childhood abuse. Years of conventional therapy had little effect because her traumatic memories were stored in implicit memory, lodged in her body rather than in conscious thought. Even when she could talk about her experiences, her body would tense up, her breathing would shorten, and she would relive the trauma as though it were happening in the present. For Nicole, recovery required methods that engaged the body directly, approaches like yoga, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, neurofeedback, and theater exercises that help people reclaim agency over their physical selves. Practical tips emerge from these stories. One key lesson is learning to notice and regulate the body's reactions. For instance, survivors are encouraged to tune into their breathing patterns, recognizing when they hold tension or shallow breathing. Simple exercises such as deep belly breathing, slowly inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4, and exhaling for 4 can help calm the nervous system. Van der Kolk emphasizes that mindfulness and body awareness are not just trendy, they are central to healing. By noticing the body's signals, tight shoulders, a racing heart, a knot in the stomach, people can respond instead of reacting, slowly rebuilding a sense of safety within themselves. The book also dives into the neuroscience of trauma. Van der Kolk explains how trauma alters the brain, particularly areas like the amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex. The amygdala becomes hyperactive, constantly scanning for danger. The hippocampus, which helps differentiate past and present, may function less effectively, causing people to re-experience trauma as if it's happening now. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought and executive control, often goes offline in high-stress moments. Understanding this helps survivors and therapists realize that behaviors often blamed on willpower or weakness are actually biological responses to overwhelming stress. An important part of healing, according to Van der Kolk, involves reclaiming control over the body. He illustrates this through innovative therapies he has seen succeed where conventional talk therapy failed. EMDR, for instance, uses guided eye movements to help the brain reprocess traumatic memories, allowing the body to release pent-up stress. Patients report that the memories lose their immediate visceral charge, even if the factual content remains. Similarly, neurofeedback helps people regulate their brain activity, training it to move from hyperarousal or dissociation toward balanced functioning. These therapies underscore a crucial principle. Trauma is encoded physically, so the body must be part of the treatment. Kolk also describes group therapy and community as powerful tools for healing. Trauma often isolates people, making them feel abnormal or unworthy. Yet, when survivors connect with others who share similar experiences, they gain validation and a sense of belonging. Group exercises, whether in therapy, yoga classes, or support circles, can help people learn to tolerate their emotions and bodily sensations safely. In one story, a group of women who had survived severe childhood abuse learned to identify subtle physical signs of fear, like a tightening chest or a quivering hand, and practice grounding exercises together. Over time, they reported fewer panic attacks and improved emotional regulation because the shared experience normalized their responses and reduced shame. Kolk doesn't shy away from the role of creativity in trauma recovery. Theater, dance, and art are highlighted not just as expressive outlets, but as mechanisms for the body to process trauma safely. He recounts a patient who struggled to express anger verbally. Through acting exercises where she could throw her emotions safely, she regained a sense of power and control. Similarly, yoga is repeatedly emphasized because it teaches body awareness, control, and presence, skills trauma survivors often lose. Through yoga, individuals learn to notice tension, release it intentionally, and reclaim a sense of ownership over their physical selves. The practical tip here is clear. Movement and creative expression are not optional extras, they are therapeutic tools. Even simple routines like stretching while focusing on the sensations in each muscle can have profound effects. Another key concept Kolk introduces is the importance of relational safety. Trauma often distorts attachment patterns, making survivors hypervigilant, distrustful, or withdrawn. Building safe relationships, whether with therapists, friends, or family, is crucial for recovery. Kolk recounts cases where consistent, predictable interactions slowly rewired the brain's expectations of safety. A patient named Sam, who grew up in a violent household, learned to trust through structured therapy sessions that combined talk therapy with body-oriented exercises. He began by simply noticing that he could sit in a chair and feel safe for 30 minutes, then gradually expanded that sense of safety to interactions outside therapy. This demonstrates a practical principle. Healing trauma often starts small, with incremental experiences of safety, before expanding into more challenging social or emotional contexts. Kolk also highlights the pitfalls of self-medicating, which many trauma survivors do. Alcohol, drugs, or compulsive behaviors provide temporary relief but fail to address the underlying neurological imprint. He shares examples of patients who initially resisted trauma-focused therapy, preferring the numbness of substances. Gradually, by integrating somatic therapies and safe relationships, they were able to tolerate their emotions without needing chemical escape. Practical guidance here includes noticing triggers and having grounding strategies at hand. Holding an object, feeling the texture of a surface, or focusing on breath can anchor someone to the present instead of the traumatic memory. Throughout the book, Kolk emphasizes that trauma doesn't just vanish with time. People may appear functional outwardly while their bodies remain in high alert. This is why conventional markers of recovery can be misleading. Trauma recovery requires patience, persistence, and consistent practice. He encourages daily rituals, checking in with the body, journaling sensations, engaging in movement, or practicing mindfulness for even 5 minutes. Small, repeated acts build neuroplastic changes that gradually restore balance. The narrative also touches on childhood trauma extensively. Kolk illustrates how early neglect or abuse rewires the developing brain, affecting attachment, emotional regulation, and even physical health. Children who experience trauma may struggle with concentration, socialization, or chronic illness later in life. The practical implication is that early intervention is crucial. For parents or caregivers, creating predictable routines, attuning to a child's emotional signals, and validating their experiences, even when the problem seems minor, can prevent long-term neurological and psychological consequences. For adults who were traumatized as children, the key takeaway is that their current struggles are understandable and treatable even decades later. Kolk's storytelling brings his points to life through vivid examples. He describes a veteran haunted by flashbacks, a mother paralyzed by panic when her child cries, a survivor of sexual assault who can't touch others without fear. In each case, the trauma manifests physically: racing heartbeat, shallow breathing, sudden tension. He offers solutions: noticing the body, learning grounding techniques, using EMDR or neurofeedback, practicing yoga, engaging in safe, structured social interactions, and expressing emotions through creativity. Each method addresses the body directly, gradually bridging the gap between mind and body. An especially empowering theme of the book is reclaiming agency. Trauma leaves people feeling helpless, but recovery involves small steps to restore control. Kolk provides practical examples: a patient learning to regulate her breathing, a man learning to notice when his muscles tense before panic sets in, a survivor practicing saying no in small, safe contexts. These micro-practices reinforce the brain's sense of mastery and safety, eventually generalizing to larger life challenges. Kolk also explores the role of medication in trauma recovery. While drugs can help stabilize symptoms like anxiety or depression, they cannot replace the experiential, body-based work necessary for healing. Medications may create a temporary buffer, but without engagement with the body and mind, trauma remains lodged in the nervous system. He stresses that medication is most effective when paired with therapies that help people process and integrate their traumatic experiences. By the end of the book, it becomes clear that trauma is not just an individual issue, it's a societal one. Schools, workplaces, and communities can all play a role in either exacerbating or alleviating trauma. Kolk argues for trauma-informed care across all sectors, where understanding the physiological and psychological impacts of trauma informs policies, interactions, and support systems. In practice, this means educators recognizing signs of distress in children, employers creating psychologically safe workplaces, and healthcare providers integrating body-focused approaches alongside traditional treatment. Ultimately, The Body Keeps the Score is both a call to understand trauma and a manual for practical healing. It is grounded in scientific research, but humanized through countless stories, demonstrating that trauma lives in the body, not just the mind. Healing requires acknowledging this, engaging the body, practicing mindfulness, building safe relationships, expressing emotions safely, and reclaiming control in small, deliberate ways. The book's practical guidance, from breathwork to yoga, EMDR to neurofeedback and group or creative therapies, offers survivors concrete tools to navigate life after trauma, gradually transforming fear, shame, and disconnection into resilience, presence, and self-ownership. Reading this book feels like being guided by a compassionate mentor who understands the invisible scars everyone carries, providing a roadmap for navigating them safely, methodically, and with hope. Each anecdote, each tip, reinforces one overarching truth: trauma may shape your past, but with the right tools and practices, it does not have to define your future. The body remembers, yes, but it can also relearn safety, control, and joy through attention, awareness, and consistent practice. The lessons here are not abstract, they are deeply practical, offering anyone struggling with trauma tangible steps toward reclaiming life. And that's it. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel Kolk, MD. Thanks for listening to Book Nibbles. If you enjoyed this bite-sized book, don't forget to subscribe for more quick, insightful summaries. See you in the next nibble.